Eastern Cape, and my life wasn't going as I planned. After graduating, I thought life would favor me and the universe will listen to my dreams. I'm a young man from Eastern Cape, and my life wasn't going as I planned. After graduating, I thought life would favor me and the universe will listen to my dreams and wishes, but things didn't go as planned. I stayed home for a couple of years after graduating because I was very selective when it comes to the kind of job I wanted. I only wanted the job that I stayed all night studying for. So I sent endless CVs, but I never even made it to an interview, not even one. So because of that, I was slowly sliding into depression as I watched my former classmates making it in life, living the life that I could only dream of. And most of them were working, buying cars, buying houses, and even having babies. So because of that, I literally became the stalker on social media, and I had opened an account with fake names just to stalk them. I deactivated my real account because I had nothing to show or even share on social media, and I didn't even want them to mop the floor with the last of my dignity. So I finally let go of my pride, and after years of suffering and starving, I then applied and got a job at a supermarket nearby. I come from a very less privileged family, so there was no one putting food on the table. I had to do it myself. Eventually I started following pages that spoke about Uktwala and whatnot. So I was a member for the longest time, and in that group, a lot of people came back with testimonies. And after a month of observing, I finally then had the courage to take one of the numbers of someone who was always posting about helping people. And I privately messaged him, and he told me I will need to go where he is so the ritual can work. Then I asked where he was, and he told me he was in Zimbabwe. So at that time, I actually had no money to go there. But I then promised to make a plan. I'll save up some money to go to him. He had shown me so many testimonies that I needed to make a plan. So exactly 4 months later, I had saved enough money, and I contacted him. He told me to come through, and I didn't even have passport at that time. So he told me to make it to Limpopo, and we'll take it from there. So I found him waiting for me there. We met at a bait board or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Limpopo. It was my first time there. I then took a bus to Gauteng, and from Gauteng I took another bus to Venda, and from Venda the guy communicated with the driver until I got where I was supposed to go. When I met that guy, it was at that point when I realized that I'm actually risking my life, and no one back home knew where I was. I lied to them and told them that I'm going to a job interview in Limpopo. It was too late for any kind of regrets, so I had to suck it in and be a man. We traveled across the river, and when we got out of the river, I was told that we are now in Zimbabwe. The river isn't that big and it's not that deep, so it was fascinating for me how two countries are just separated by a fence. In my head, countries are supposed to be separated by oceans or a huge mountain, but that wasn't the case. Anyway, the guy made me very comfortable. We walked a bit until we found his car parked, and we drove to his house. He lived with his 3 wives and about 20 children. It was like an entire village in one yard, but his yard was very clean and well organized. The first thing I realized was animal skins which were hanging on his washing lines as if they were clothing. The kids were so well behaved, and they ran to stand in line so that I can walk and greet them. I was then offered food, but I wasn't even hungry because the regrets were now fighting in my head and heart. I thought I would be sacrificed. I was then shown a house that I was going to sleep in, and I was told to take off my clothing and shoes and only wear a toque. At that point, I thought I had signed my life away. The moment the man closed the door, then I realized that there was no window there, and I knew right there that I had signed my life away. I did as I was told, with tears filling my eyes, and I then knelt down and begged God to have mercy on me and forgive me for my ungratefulness for the life He had chosen for me. I was begging God to help me escape and make a promise that I would cherish and appreciate the life that He chose for me. The man came back with one of his wives. The wife was holding red coal, burning coal. in a steel plate, and the man had something wrapped in a newspaper. He then instructed me to appease his ancestors with the money I had. And remember, at this point, I already resigned from my job at the supermarket because I thought I'm gonna be a millionaire, you know. Anyway, the house was empty with just candles and wooden mat in it. There was also a big black and yellow clay pot in there. No furniture, nothing, just that. So I took out 500 as agreed, and I appeased the ancestors. So he told me to take off my clothing. He cut my skin small cuts using his nails and smeared motor on the cuts. Then when he was done, his wife put the plate full of smoke down, and I was told to jump over the smoke until the smoke is normal. So I started jumping after they left. I jumped until I got tired. When I wanted to cheat by taking a break, something would just clear his throat in the room until I jumped again. At the end, the smoke did disappear, as they said, and I was about to rest, but the man came in with a 2-liter bucket full of tea with no sugar. So I was then given another empty bucket. I had to drink the tea and vomit it out. I was also told to sleep naked. So I stayed in the room for like 7 full days without seeing a sun or even going out. I was then told that the snake has to get used to me before I can take it home. So now it makes sense to me why always when I was in a room, I felt like I wasn't alone. And I was just wondering where this snake is hiding because I've never seen it. So on the last day, I was taken to bath by some river at the forest. So I was told not to use lotion or even roll on. Then when we got back the next day, I was given the clay pot and I was told not to open it until I got home. I was told never to put on a roll on ever in my life. So otherwise it will all be for nothing. And I traveled back home. I slept most of the journey because the seats were comfortable compared to what I was used to there. So when I got home, I was told that my granny fell ill out of the blue. And that night, as I was sleeping, I saw an elderly woman I didn't know standing beside me. I was terrified, so I woke up and I sat on the bed and I rubbed my eyes in disbelief. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Then I saw my grandmother standing next to the strange elderly woman. Then the elderly woman held my grandmother by hand and they both dived into the clay pot. You know, I was confused and I felt very scared. I tried opening the clay pots and I couldn't. I went back to bed and then I managed to sleep. When I wake up in the morning, I woke up and I opened the clay pots and there was money there. You know, it was filled with money. I got out of bed so excited. Then my mom knocked in the door and I lied to her and told her that I was dressing up. And she told me that my grandmother was normal. You know, I was no longer excited. Excitement turned into sorrow, and I decided to hide the money as quick as I could, and I opened the door. Days passed. I paid for my granny's funeral. You know, I gave her expensive and dignified funeral. My aunties, though, were a problem, but when you have money, people will respect you regardless of your flaws. And to be honest, I was living a good life. I built my mom a house, and I never even ran of money. It was like the more I spent the money, it became more. So I bought myself a car and I had endless girlfriends fighting over me, even with my armpits. They didn't seem to care. The following year, my mom fell sick, and a couple of days later, I saw the old woman. This time, she took my mom with her into the clay pot. You know. The next day, my mom passed away. I then knew that I was sacrificing my family for the money. I buried my mom with dignity still. The following year, one of my girlfriends gave birth to an unwell baby. Then I saw the elderly lady taking my baby into the clay pot. Then the next day, my newborn baby was gone. I started losing the loved ones yearly. I tried getting rid of the clay pots. I was tired of losing people I loved the most, so I took it and I drove to a river far from home, and I threw it there and went back home. Uh, the next day I couldn't walk, and I woke up to the clay pot back into my room. You know, I just became paralyzed. To this day, I'm still suffering, and now the old lady now torments me. This is too much for me, and it happens every night, and I'm suffering. I no longer have money at this point, and the Zimbabwean man says that I need to pay him R1 million to get rid of the clay pot, and I need help. I need help, and on the other hand, my armpit smells even worse now. I really need help. If there's anyone who knows anyone out there who can help me with my situation, please help.